Okay, let's decode this. Number one, the myth of the lazy brain. What if I told you your brain isn't some inherently lazy, self-sabotaging jerk? Because let's be honest, it often feels like it is. You know the drill. Alarm goes off, you hit snooze. That task you know you should do? Suddenly, reorganizing your sock drawer feels like a spiritual calling. We tend to frame this as a personal failing, a lack of discipline, a moral weakness. We beat ourselves up, convinced our brains are actively conspiring against our productivity. But here's the quiet, slightly unsettling truth. Your brain is actually just trying to protect you. It's a very sophisticated, slightly anxious, squishy computer that defaults to energy conservation and avoiding discomfort. When faced with something challenging, uncertain, or just plain boring, its first instinct isn't, let's conquer this. It's, can we just not? Maybe scroll Instagram for a bit? That feels safer. Less brain pain. It's not laziness. It's a primal, often misguided, attempt at self-preservation. So, next time you're staring at a blank document, remember, your brain isn't evil. It's just a little overprotective, like a well-meaning, but ultimately unhelpful relative who keeps pushing snacks on you when you're trying to diet. Number two, the perfectionism paradox. What if the reason you're not starting that thing is because you secretly believe you can't do it perfectly? This isn't about being a neat freak. It's about the insidious whisper in your mind that says, if it's not going to be the absolute best, why even bother? We've all been conditioned, consciously or unconsciously, to strive for excellence. And that's great in theory. But for the procrastinator, excellence often becomes a gilded cage. You envision the final, flawless masterpiece, whether it's a presentation, a creative project, or even just cleaning your apartment. And the gap between that perfect vision and your current, messy reality feels like an insurmountable chasm. Starting then feels like admitting defeat, like settling for something less than your ideal. And who wants to feel like a sellout to their own potential? So you freeze. You wait for the mythical moment when you'll magically acquire all the skills, all the energy, all the time to create that perfect thing. But that moment never comes. Instead, good enough doesn't just feel like a compromise. It feels like a personal betrayal of the dazzling, flawless person you could be. Number three, decision fatigue. What if the simple act of deciding what to do next is actually making you too tired to do anything at all? We live in an age of infinite choices, right? From what to watch on Netflix to which brand of hummus to buy, our brains are constantly making micro-decisions. And while each individual choice might seem trivial, they collectively chip away at a finite mental resource called decision-making energy. Think of it like a battery. Every time you have to weigh options, consider consequences, or just pick between two equally unappealing tasks, you're draining a bit of that juice. By the time you get to the important thing you actually need to do, your decision battery might be running on fumes. That's why, after a long day of meetings and emails, the idea of choosing between start that report and stare blankly at the wall feels so overwhelmingly exhausting. It's not that you're lazy, it's that your brain has been doing mental bicep curls all day, and now it just wants to lie down and watch cat videos. Procrastination, in this light, is less about laziness and more about your brain subtly waving a white flag, begging for a break from the tyranny of choice. Number four, the future you fallacy. What if your procrastination isn't about avoiding work, but about believing in a superhero version of yourself that only exists in the future? We all do it. Future me will be less tired. Future me will be more motivated. Future me will magically understand calculus and write that entire report in one glorious, caffeine-fueled burst of genius. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a cognitive bias. We tend to view our future selves as distinct entities, almost like a different person who is inherently more disciplined, smarter, and generally less inclined to scroll through endless TikToks. So, when faced with an unpleasant or challenging task, it feels perfectly logical to simply offload it onto this mythical, more capable being. Present me gets to chill, and future me gets to handle the messy stuff. The problem, of course, is that future me eventually becomes present me, staring at the same unstarted task, feeling just as overwhelmed, and promptly creating a new future me to pass the buck to. It's a never-ending cycle of self-deception, fueled by an almost endearing, yet utterly unhelpful, optimism about our future capabilities. Number five, fear of success. Yes, really. What if you're not procrastinating because you're afraid to fail, but because you're actually terrified of succeeding? This sounds completely bonkers, I know. We're conditioned to believe success is the ultimate goal, the thing we should always strive for. But lurking beneath the surface for many of us is a quiet, existential dread about what happens after we achieve something significant. Success brings new expectations. It means more responsibility, more pressure, maybe even stepping into a spotlight you never really wanted. If you ace that presentation, suddenly everyone expects you to be brilliant all the time. If your creative project blows up, now you have to maintain that level or even surpass it with everything you do next. There's also the uncomfortable thought of, what if I get what I want and it's not actually what I thought it would be? Or even scarier, what if I get what I want and I'm still not happy? Procrastination, in this light, can be a sneaky self-preservation mechanism, keeping you safe in the comfortable mediocrity of almost or someday, simply because the unknown territory of accomplished feels infinitely more daunting. Number 6, the too big to start trap. What if that looming task isn't just a task, but an intimidating mountain range that your brain simply refuses to climb? You know the feeling. You look at a project, whether it's writing a dissertation, cleaning out a garage that resembles a forgotten archaeological dig, or planning a massive event, and your mind immediately jumps to the sheer, unmanageable scale of it. It's not just one thing. It's 100 things, 1,000 tiny steps, all swirling together into an amorphous blob of too much. Your brain, in its infinite wisdom and slight tendency toward dramatic exaggeration, sees this massive undertaking and flags it as a danger zone. It's an Everest without a clear path, and the thought of even taking the first step feels like signing up for an impossible expedition. So, you procrastinate. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain, overwhelmed by the sheer volume and complexity, essentially goes into self-preservation mode and says, nope, not today, maybe never. Let's just watch another documentary about true crime instead. It's a classic case of paralysis by analysis, where the sheer scope of the task becomes the biggest barrier to entry. All right, that's the real talk for today. What were your biggest takeaways, or what's your go-to procrastination move? Let me know in the comments below. If you dug this video, a like would be awesome, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. See you then.